Hi, welcome. I'm Lorelei of Namasturm Yoga. This is going to be a level 1 yoga practice. So if you've got one, go ahead and grab a yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, you could use something like a hardcover book with a thick spine, or even like a cardboard box that happens to be about the same shape. Let's get to the mat and get started. So let's just sit for the first couple minutes of our class today. So your block can just be off to the side. We'll grab it in a little bit. But if you do feel like you need to sit up on the edge of something, sometimes a block can be used for that. Now here you probably wouldn't want to use like something that you're going to crush. You know, our hips are not the lightest part of our body, whereas, you know, we could put a hand on a little glass something, but don't sit on something that's going to break or crush. But if you're doing that, it tends to help you to lean forward a little bit better so you can get your shoulders stacked over your hips, if that's difficult for you to do with your hips on the floor. Cross your legs, bring your hands to your knees. Maybe take a moment to roll your shoulders back and down. Close your eyes, just let the head float on top of the neck here. And the first few minutes of class are really just for you to check in with how you're feeling, to transition from, you know, if this is the morning for you, from being asleep and maybe just starting your day to actually being in a practice where we're going to focus, try to be mindful and aware. Maybe also the moment to just notice what's going on in your body. So if you carry tension in your back or your shoulders or your hips or even your knees, you might feel that here. We're not going to fix it immediately. You know, the idea of yoga is that it is somewhat therapeutic and we can work through some of those things, but it may not happen right away. But it's just good to sort of be where we're at now and at least say, all right, so this is my starting point. So this is our chance to do that. I will give you a minute or so in silence so you can really just allow yourself to check in and focus on the breath. Go ahead and open the eyes. So now that we've slowed down a little bit, come to maybe a more centered place, let's transition to hands and knees. We're going to come to a tabletop and we're going to start to work with the breath here. So set up your shoulders over your wrists and your hips over your knees and all that. Come into a nice flat back position. But let's start to initiate Ujjayi breathing practice. So the back of the throat narrows a little bit in Ujjayi, and it doesn't feel like a great amount of like tension or constriction, but it's just what we would do if we were whispering, basically. And then we try to even out the breath. So we're going to do this at the same time as we start moving. So on an inhale, let your head and tail lift and your chest and belly drop. This is cow pose. As you exhale, tuck the tailbone under you, arch the spine, let your head come down. This is cat pose. Inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. And if you're working the Ujjayi breath, you should be able to hear the breath as it moves in and out. You're still breathing in and out through the nose, but because the back of the throat is slightly narrowed, you've created a little friction and it creates just this little soft rushing sound. It reminds me sometimes of like the tide or, you know, as the waves crash into the shore. But there's also a real evenness to this, so that there's a steady consistency, no pause between breath and breath. And we're just warming up the back here, the spine, you know, a little bit into the shoulders, maybe the hips. So again, notice what's going on for you. Notice your points of tension. Don't try to force or push through resistance. Just keep the body moving and see if by moving we can generate enough heat just to gradually start to let things loosen up. And then we're going to add on here. So next time you go to cat, as you start to round the spine, drop your hips to your heels, just briefly touching down. This is child's pose. And then inhale, come back up to cow. Exhale, letting your hips sink back to child's pose. Inhale, back to cow pose. Exhale, child's pose. Now we're going to add on just a little bit more here. So we're going to inhale back to cow pose. Now go ahead and tuck your toes. Lift your knees and hips, down dog. We're just touching it for a moment, so let your chest reach back. Knees back to the floor. Inhale again to your cow pose. Now alternating. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, come on up for cow. Exhale, tuck your toes, move your heart back, lengthen your arms for down dog. Inhale, back to the knees. Exhale, hips to the heels. One more time, inhale, back to the knees. Now, as you exhale, let's come to down dog, but it's gonna just be kind of an easy one here. So keep the knees really bent. Let your head hang down. Spread your fingers wide, root down through the entirety of your hand. And then keeping your left knee bent, just straighten the right leg and reach that heel to the floor. Breathe for another breath here, just really letting the back of that leg open. And then bend your right knee again, and now this time straighten your left leg and let the heel drop now towards the floor. So it might not actually get to the floor, and that's okay. Keep the hands pressing down. And then let's start to walk the hands back. So walk your hands till you come all the way to the back of your mat. Forward folding. Have your feet about hip distance apart. And again, the knees can be really soft here. So don't worry about stretching the hamstrings at this point. Think more about letting the upper body go. Dangle. You can sway a little from side to side, or you can grab your elbows if you want to. If they hit the ground, you can loosen up the back of the neck a little by nodding and shaking the head. Maybe bounce the knees even. And then let go of your elbows. Let's bend the knees and roll on up to standing. Come all the way up. Take your shoulders back and down a couple of times here. Now we're going to take the arms up on an inhale. And exhale, swan dive forward over the legs. So lead with the chest, come to a forward fold. At the bottom, bend the knees even more, roll on up, and we're going to follow the breath again here. So rolling up to stand, exhale, leading with the chest to fold. Obviously, we're adding in our legs here, but it's similar to our cat-cow in some ways. Inhale. As you exhale, you're letting the heart lead, similar to what we would do with that cow pose. Inhale, come on up the spine, rounds. Exhale, forward fold, and let's go ahead and stay folded. We're going to walk the hands to the front of the mat now, coming all the way to plank. So let your shoulders move with your hands and end up over your wrists. Reach through the heels, breathe, pull your navel up into the body so that it's stabilizing you. Long spine, and that includes your neck. So try not to drop the head. Keep the neck nice and long. Reach through the heels. And then we're going to lower to the floor. So I recommend dropping the knees first, but then coming down slowly. Bend your elbows. Don't let your hips come down first. So sometimes we try to just drop the hips and keep the arms straight. Here we're bending the arms, but don't let the hips come down. Chest and hips should land simultaneously. And then hands by the sides of the body. Let's come up for a little locust pose here. So we're just going to reach the fingertips back, lift the feet, and lift the upper body. I always think of this like being the bottom of a rocking chair. And then lower yourself down, forehead or an ear to the floor. Now, I'm going to give 2 more options here. So if you want to stay with just the arms next to the sides, you can do that. But if you're able to, see if you can reach the hands together behind your back. Lift your shoulders and pull them onto your upper back, and maybe straighten the arms. Reach the knuckles towards your heels. Now let the upper body come up, and then the low body can come up a little bit as well. So the pointing the toes behind you. If this is too much on your low back, ease up. Come to something more simple. You can keep the feet on the floor if you need to. And then slowly let that go back to the ground, forehead or an ear to the floor. Now we're going to take one more variation here, but again, if you want to stick with one of the other 2, just feel free to do what makes most sense for you. But if possible, bend the knees, reach back with the hands for the feet, keep your thighs on the floor, press your pelvis into the ground, but then see if you can slightly pull the heels away from the hips so that as the heels pull away, the knees point back, but the shoulders get lifted. Look forward, don't crane your head back, but we also don't want to drop our head. Now we're going to see if we can keep some of the lift in the upper body, carefully let go of the feet, bend the elbows by the sides, bring the hands to the floor. Either stay in baby cobra or now start to press yourself up into full cobra. Heart is forward, shoulders are back. Soft glutes and legs, breathe. And then from here, let's tuck the toes, lift the hips, use your core muscles, and then lift the knees, move the heart back. We're coming all the way to down dog. Adjust the feet now. So we want the feet about hip distance apart. And I think of that as like one footprint. So if we had another foot, we could put it between our 2 feet and we would be aligned properly. Fingers spread wide. Push the hands forward and down to help lift the hips up and back. Relax the neck. Now let's take the right leg up into the air. Open the hip, bend the top knee, point the knee to the sky. Let the heel drop towards your left hip if possible. And then we're going to step the right foot forward. So we want to lift up out of the shoulders, lift the spine, create a ton of space. Maybe you even need to come up, for me sometimes I even come up on my fingertips. Theoretically we shouldn't have to, but you might have to clear enough room to really get that foot all the way to the front of the mat. And if it just gets caught in the middle, use your right hand to help you slide that foot forward so your knee ends up stacked right above your ankle. Fingertips on the floor. So take a moment, we're going to keep the hands down. Go ahead and bend your left knee and drop that knee to the floor. Lunge a little further forward with the hips. Now see if you can keep that lunge. Front knee is still over the ankle, but lift up your back knee and straighten it out. Really reach through it. Give yourself a really good stretch in that back leg. Now we're going to plant the left palm on the ground and make sure your fingers and toes are lined up. So try not to have the hand ahead of the foot, but right next to it. Take the right arm up into the air. This is easy twist here. The back leg is still really straight and strong. The front knee is bent maybe as deep as 90 degrees. Now turn back to the floor. Try to keep that back leg as straight and strong as it is. Plant both palms and step your right foot back so you're in plank. Shoulders over wrists. Hips almost, but not quite level with the shoulders. They're a little lower. Let's lower down. Now you can take the knees down first, or if you want to go through Chaturanga Dandasana, think about keeping the elbows over the wrists even as you bend them. So what has to happen is the shoulders move forward. No elbows winging to the sides, right? Lower the chest and hips down simultaneously. Extend your toes. Inhale, coming up for Cobra. And exhale, downward facing dog. And breathe here. If you need to adjust the legs a little bit, you can do that. But otherwise, just think about pressing down and lifting up as you inhale. So you're really stretching the upper body. And then as you exhale, lean the chest back. Maybe straighten the legs, but Don't let that round up the back. Let's take the left leg into the air, open the hip and bend the top knee, point the knee to the sky, heel drops to your right hip. Keep the shoulders level. So sometimes these shoulders go twisty as well, but see if you can keep your upper body square. Look forward. Create tons of space under your body as you start to pull that foot forward so you can get it all the way up to the front of the mat. Left knee is over the ankle. Fingertips stay on the floor. Go ahead and bend your back knee and take the back knee to the ground for a moment. Really trying to get this front knee pretty squared up. Let's just shift the hips forward so we're getting a nice deep lunge. You might feel a stretch for the front of your right thigh. And then keeping the fingertips on the floor. Don't bring them too far ahead, but right next to your foot. Lift your back knee up and straighten it. So push through the heel. Very strong. And then plant your right palm next to your left foot. Take your left arm up. Nice, easy twist here. And if it doesn't feel easy, that's okay. But you want to get us, we're obviously working the spine as we twist. And then hands to the floor. Let's one more time step back to plank. So really try to keep that back leg strong. Maybe the hips and shoulders don't even move as you step the left foot back to meet the right. And then lowering down, and again, you can take knees down first if you need to. Inhale, come to your cobra. And exhale, tuck your toes, lift your hips, come to downward facing dog, and breathe here. And we're going to look to the front of the mat, step, hop, or lightly walk your feet up and come to another standing forward fold here. Upper body dangles. And then let's go ahead and roll on up, shoulders back and down. So go ahead and come up to standing. We're going to do a couple of sun A's here. So come to whatever side of your mat makes the sense for the top of your mat. Bring your big toes to touch. So your heels are going to be slightly apart if the feet are parallel, and that's kind of what we want for the classic front of the mat standing position. Bring your palms together in front of the heart. Just press them lightly. Press the feet down, lift your quads, lengthen the spine. So sun A's are kind of classic. We do them in like an Ashtanga practice a lot. It's a really full body warm up, but we've kind of done all of the poses that are components of a sun A. So to just kind of string them together with the breath, sort of our goal here. And we kind of, bring the practice all together. Inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale, take a long forward fold. So lead with your chest, swan dive. Now fingers to shins, take a half lift. We haven't done this one yet, so let's take a couple breaths here. This is a really simple pose, Ardha Uttanasana, or half forward fold. Really think about pushing into your shins. Now if your hamstrings are really open, it can be done with fingertips at the ankles or even on the ground next to the toes, but you want to have your fingers somewhere to root in. So it's not just like a lift up with the arms dangling. We really want to root into something with the fingertips. Now from here, you can keep that length in your spine as you step the feet back, plant the palms, and lower down to the ground. So you're keeping the neck long through all of that. Inhale, come on up, cobra pose. And then exhale, tuck your toes, lift your knees and hips, and find your downward facing dog, and breathe. So down dog is the resting pose of the sequence and really throughout practice. But if you don't feel like it's enough rest, you can always take knees to the floor, hips to the heels, and swap in a child's pose. So that works just as well for rest. It's a little bit easier, right? So if that's an option for you, if you'd like to take it. Next, inhale, look forward. Exhale, bend the knees and step or hop the feet to the front of the mat. Inhale, take a half lift, flat back, reach the head forward. Again, long spine. Exhale, fold deep. Inhale, reverse swan dive. So instead of rolling up, we're pushing the feet down, coming up again, flat back. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. And let's keep it going. Inhale. Follow your breath here. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift halfway up. Exhale, step to plank pose and lower to the ground. You can take your knees down if you need to. Inhale, cobra. If you want, you can take up dog here as well. Exhale, down dog. Let's just take another breath here. Inhale, exhale. And then inhale, look to the front of the mat again. Exhale, step, walk, or if you want, you can lightly hop forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, folding down. Inhale, reverse, come up. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. And we'll do this again. So if your breath is a little faster or slower than my cueing, that's fine. So don't feel like you have to follow me at the exact same pace as I'm going. Inhale, take a half lift. Exhale, step to plank and lower. Inhale, cobra. If you're in up dog, the thighs are off the floor. Exhale, roll over toes, lift hips, down dog. Let's take one breath here. You can hold down dog as long as you like 3 to 5 breaths. I kind of like to keep it short. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, step or hop up. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive, come up. Exhale, palms together in front of the heart. Let's keep going, but we're gonna only go as far as downward facing dog this time. So make your way to down dog. All right, let's take the right leg into the air, but keep the hip nice and square. So toes are flexed downward. Try to keep the hips nice and level. And then look between your hands and step the front foot up. Now we're gonna keep the back leg lifted, so nice and straight and strong as we did before. Front knee over the ankle and then float up to a high lunge. So this is a little bit of a balance pose. Square, you can have your hands on your hips if you want, square them forward. Gaze at something ahead of you that's not moving so that you can help yourself find balance. And then take the arms up. Lunge deep into the front knee, but keep that back leg really strong. Okay. Now we're gonna take it to a twist. So I'm actually gonna turn the other way just so that you can see. If you want, you can take the right hand on the thigh to help with this and take the left arm over. Take your top palm down into the bottom one, press, and you're twisting. So trying to stay stable. If you need to put that back knee down, you can do that. But now we're gonna lean towards the front leg and step the back foot up next to it. See if you can get the big toes to touch the knees side by side, and then optional, maybe fly the arms open. Do the best you can with this. Now we're gonna come to chair. So our legs are already bent, which is what we want in a chair pose. So we're gonna pull the navel in, drop the tailbone down, move the weight to the heels, and let the arms come up. Take another breath here. This is Utkatasana. One more inhale. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, half lift for Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale. So here's an opportunity to take a vinyasa again. So we'd step to plank and lower. Take a back bend. And then go to down dog if you like this vinyasa stuff. But if you don't like it, you can skip that part and just meet in down dog every time the vinyasa comes up. Let's take the left leg up. Nice square hip. Toes flex down, press the hands, lift the leg, and then step it forward between the hands. Come on up for a high lunge, so knee over ankle, and I'm gonna turn again to the other side so I can stay with you for the twist. Keep reaching through the back leg. Arms are up here at first. Gaze forward. And then let's twist. So left hand to your thigh. Take that right arm over. Whew, do the best you can here. If you need to take your back knee down to help you balance as you make this transition, you can do that. Press your left palm down into the right. Try to get the thumbs in front of your sternum if possible. Now, transferring weight. Lean towards the left foot and step the right foot up. Big toes touch, knees come together. Reach the head away from the tail, and then if you want to open the arms, you can. You may. Let's come back to chair. One breath. Inhale. Exhale, forward fold over the legs. Inhale, take a half lift, flat back. And exhale. Again, here's a vinyasa, so you know it's optional. And you're in down dog again. Inhale, look to the front of the mat. As you exhale, bend the knees and step or lightly hop the feet forward. Inhale, take a half lift. Exhale, fold deep. Now we're going to come through chair pose, so go ahead and bend the knees, sink the hips. Inhale, Utkatasana, and then straighten the legs, come to standing. So we're going to step the left foot open, but keep the right toes pointing towards the short side of your mat. So step that left foot open. Try to keep both legs straight and strong here. Hips are level, shoulders over hips. We're going to go into triangle, and here's where we're going to start to use the block. So go ahead and find your block wherever it was. We're going to take this block into the right hand. We're going to tuck the right hip in, and then this, if the block's light, now if it's a book, you can, maybe it's too heavy to hold out like this, but tuck the right hip in, reach with the right fingers, reach, keep the side of the body long, that right side, and then when you get to about your max, so you haven't collapsed, right, but the sides of the body are long, take that hand, take the block behind your shin, press down, lift that top arm up, and extend. Extended side angle, look on up, press the feet. So using that block behind your shin to push down into so that you can lengthen the sides of the body. So this isn't a pose about like trying to go low. So we're not just trying to drop down, right? If you feel like you can go deeper, you could turn the block down a notch, reach through the head, tuck your right hip under, and then let's go ahead and float up. You can just leave that block behind for now, so just leave it on the floor or box or whatever you're using. Front heel and back arch line up. Let's go into warrior two. So you might need to take the foot further out, but theoretically the foot position is the same for these two poses. We're going to bend the right knee towards the right toes. And then let's go ahead and straighten. We're just going to kind of practice this. So go ahead and take your hands to your hips. Trying to keep the hips level as you do this. Bend the knee. And then straighten. So just check in with those hips. If the hips are tending to like right hip drops in and left hip goes up as you bend the knee, see if you can adjust that. Bend the knee and straighten, and then we're going to go ahead and bend the knee. We'll hold it here. Knee over ankle, shoulders over hips. Take the arms up for a moment, palms out, and then just let them fall to the level of your shoulders. And then look out over your front fingers. Check and make sure you can see your big toe peeking out from inside your front knee. Now turn the front palm up, keep the lunge in your front knee. Let's reverse warrior. So stretching back and breathing. And then go ahead and come on up and straighten the front leg. Let's parallel the feet. So the block, you can just move it kind of out of the way here, or we're going to take a wide-legged forward fold, and if you have a hard time reaching the floor with your fingers, you can put them on the block. Take your hands to your waist. Let your chest lead as you fold. And then take the fingers to the floor. Maybe palms come to the floor. Lean in. So lean forward toward the balls of the feet. Let the head hang heavy. Lift your quads. And then press the feet down. Come on up. And let's do the same standing poses on the other side. So get that block now ready. We're going to take it into the left hand. So pivot on the left heel. So the front heel and back arch line up. Tuck your left hip under. Arms nice and long. Extending the side of your body here. Reaching. So especially think of lengthening this underside, not collapsing it. And then block can come behind your shin. Lift the top arm up, Tuck your left hip under, reach through the head, breathe. Okay. Gazing up towards that top thumb. If you need to turn it down a notch, you can turn that block down a notch. And then float up, and you can just leave the block behind, and we're gonna go into warrior two. So go ahead and bend the front knee over the ankle, put the hands on the hips, and check and make sure that those hips are staying pretty level. And we're just gonna go in and out a couple times. So straighten that front leg, and then bend into it. And notice the shoulders are also staying over the hips. So the shoulders aren't lunging forward, just to the knee. You should feel this also in your right hip, you might feel as well. Trying to keep that right hip dropped down. One more time, so straighten the front leg. That left leg is your front leg now. And then bend into it. And then, keeping the hips level, shoulders square, take the arms up. Drop them down so that they just rest at shoulder height. And you can imagine that they're resting on like a stack of books or something. Turn and look over your left fingertips. Check to make sure that you can see your big toe peeking out inside of your left knee. Now, if you need to go deeper, or if you can go deeper, but you find that your knee's going past your ankle too much, take your feet wider. Now turn your front palm up, reverse warrior. Keep lunging with the front knee, keep pressing into the outer edge of the back foot. And then go ahead and come on up, straighten the legs, and jump the feet together. Okay, so let's go ahead and step back to the front of the mat. Still have your block handy, so keep it kind of by the front right end of your mat. So stepping back to the top, big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Inhale, chair pose, Utkatasana. Exhale, fold Uttanasana. Inhale, half lift Ardha Uttanasana, and let's take another vinyasa sequence here. So plant the palms, step to plank, maybe knees to the floor first, lower down, cobra or up dog, and exhale, downward facing dog. Let's lift the right leg into the air, so take it up one inhale, and then exhale, step it to the front of the mat. Now, we're gonna take a warrior one, so before taking the hands up, step the left foot a little to the left, pivot your left heel down, root into the outer edge of the foot. Front knee stays over ankle. Come on up. The hips are squared forward. So driving the left hip forward, right hip back, lunge into that front knee, and then take the arms up. Gaze ahead of you. So unlike a crescent pose, that high lunge we did earlier, now the back heel is down and we're rooting into the outer edge of it, which gives us greater stability, but it can challenge our hips a little bit more. Now from here, we're gonna open to warrior two. So we're gonna go ahead and step now the back foot a little bit open to help line up the front heel and back arch, and the arms come out at shoulder height. Gaze is still forward. Inhale, reverse warrior, and then we're gonna come to extended side angle. So the legs don't change here, but we're gonna bring the forearm to the thigh, top arm overhead alongside the ear. Now, we can grab hold of that block, and if we want to, we can take the block behind the foot, plant the hand, the palm on the block as an alternative way to do this pose. Keep lunging forward now. We're gonna go to Halfmoon pose. So take the left hand to the hip. You've got your right hand on the block. We're gonna move the block ahead of the foot. So it might even go off the mat here. Step it up. Lean towards it, and then see if you can just, maybe the foot needs to step in a little bit, but once the foot's off the floor, that left foot, push through the heel to help give you a little bit more tension in that leg to lift it up. Option to take the right arm into, or the left arm into the air. It's optional. Reach the head and heel away from each other. And then when you're ready to step out, bend your front knee, step it back, come on up, warrior two. Inhale, reverse your warrior, and then here you can take a vinyasa if you'd like to. And we're gonna do all that on the other side. So let's take the left leg into the air on an inhale. Exhale, step it forward, and we're gonna start with warrior one. So we want it, again, before the hands come up, step the right foot a little to the right, pivot the back heel down, and then come on up. So the reason that the right foot wants to be to the right and the left foot to the left is it's going to help square the hips forward. The hips are hip distance apart. It's helpful to also have the feet hip distance apart. When we go to Warrior Two, because we want those hips to be completely open, then we need to adjust the feet again to help support the alignment of the hips. But for here, we're in Warrior One, back heel presses down, lunge into the front knee, take the arms up, steady your gaze. And then we're going to open to Warrior Two. And I'm just going to turn to the other side of the mat, but you're going to go ahead and have the front heel and back arch line up. Arms out at shoulder height. Inhale, reverse warrior, and then extended side angle. And sort of the basic form is forearm on the thigh, top arm overhead at a diagonal. Dropping that right hip down to help create the diagonal as well. Maybe look up under the arm toward the fingers. And then if you want to add the block, you can take that block like behind your foot, behind your shin, and then plant your left palm on the block. Keep extending the sides of your body. Halfmoon? All right, take the right hand to the hip. Look down so you have a good idea of where to place the block. And the idea was we're trying to keep our body open this way. So as opposed to like dropping the shoulder and trying to come up from here, see if you can keep your hips and shoulders open so that you don't have to try to do that once you're balanced. So the block comes forward and then lean, lean, lean. Float your back leg up, push through the heel, and maybe the top arm goes up as well. So from half moon, we'll bend the front knee, step back, and we can basically land in Warrior Two. Inhale, reverse warrior, and then hands to the floor. Move through a vinyasa if you want. You don't have to take it. You could go straight to down dog, of course. And breathe here. Inhale, look to the front of the mat. Exhale, step or hop the feet forward between the hands. Inhale, take a half lift. Exhale, fold. Now bend the knees. Let's go through chair, Utkatasana. And then straighten the legs, come to standing. Okay, so for this next sequence, we're gonna rely quite a bit on this block here. So hopefully there's something that you found that's gonna work for you. We're not gonna be sitting on it, so it doesn't need to take a ton of weight, but we do wanna be able to put the weight of our hands pretty firmly onto the block. So we're gonna step the right foot forward. I'm gonna go this way. We're gonna step the right foot forward and the left foot a little bit back, but not as far back as if we were taking a lunge, right? So a little bit, maybe about 2/3 of the way. We're using maybe half to 2/3 of the mat here. We're gonna start by putting that block now inside of the right foot. We're just gonna put it down there. Take the hands to the hips. Attempt to square your hips. Now, if that's challenging, you might need to step your feet a little closer together. Make sure the left foot is a little to the left. So again, left foot to the left, right foot to the right, a little bit. We're not using the whole width of the mat, but we're using, a little bit more than, we don't want front to back feet. We're gonna start to fold with a flat back. Keep your back heel rooted down. Reach the head forward. This is sort of a variation of pyramid at this point. So the front leg is straight, but we don't want to lock the knee. We want to activate the quad to keep that leg straight. Now bring both hands to your block. Thinking Ardha Uttanasana. So remember that flat back pose that we've done through all of our vinyasas, where you reach the head forward, root the back heel down now. Try to flatten out the back. Now, if your hamstrings are pretty open and you're feeling comfortable here, you could take the block down another notch, but keep reaching the head forward. So if you get to the point where you're rounding your back, you've gone too low with the block. Now we're gonna plant the left hand and see if you can root down through the whole palm of the hand. Push the back heel down, take the right arm up. This is Revolve Triangle. Reach the head away from the tailbone. Press down with that bottom hand to get that top shoulder up. and root into your back heel. If that back heel has come up, you're leaning as opposed to stretching or twisting. Make sure your block is not ahead of your foot. It should be right next to it. But now, here's advanced challenge if you're up for it. Now, if you've got that block in your left hand, pick it up, step it forward, lean, lean, lean off the back foot. See if you can float that back foot off the ground for a moment for revolved half moon. This is an advanced pose. Don't worry if you don't get it, but you can try it. You might be really ready for it. Now, let's step that back foot down and fold down. So now we're going to come to a full pyramid. You can still use the block if you need it, but if your hands come to the floor, go ahead and let them come down and just let your upper body now drape over the front leg for a stretch. Just continue to keep the back heel down and breathe. Okay, and then let's step the back foot forward. Let's just take a nice standing forward fold here. So let the upper body hang. If you want to go deeper, you can reach the hands behind the calves and pull yourself in. But if that's more than you want, just go ahead and let yourself be soft here. And then bend the knees. Let's roll up to standing. So come up nice and easy. Take your shoulders back and down. But let's do the other side. So we're going to step, this time the left foot's going to be ahead and the right foot's going to be back. So, we don't want the feet this close. This is pretty much just standing, but we want to use, I would say, half to 2/3 of the mat. Not too far apart, because if you get the feet too far apart, it's going to be hard to root your back heel down. Okay, now put the block inside of your left foot. Take your hands to your hips. Feet are about hip distance apart, helping with the hip alignment. Start to reach forward, flat back. Remember, this front knee is straight but not locked. So you can also think of driving your left thigh or quad deeper into the hip socket to help with that engagement and alignment. Reach the head forward and then bring both fingers to the block, both sets of fingers. Reach the head away from the tail. Try to flatten out the back. Root down through the back heel. So there's a lot of different bits and pieces here. Eventually your body sort of gets used to knowing what ones to work and where you can actually relax. But for now, I am your constant reminder. Let's go ahead. And now if you can turn the block down, you can, but don't feel like you must. Plant the palm, root down through the right hand, and see if you can just turn open and take that left arm up. Revolve Triangle. So this is a twist in the spine. Obviously, we're also working the legs, but the legs are our base, our foundation, our stability. So we're trying to keep them stable. Root through the back heel. Breathe. Now, if you try this on the first side, here it comes. Step the block forward with your right hand. And we want it to move forward because we want eventually the shoulder to move over the wrist. Flow. So lean. You're basically just leaning into this until that right leg can come up. Keep your twist, keep your balance, so keep gazing at something stable. And then to come out, step back and try to step back about where the foot was before as you come now to pyramid and allow yourself to fold. And again, this knee is straight but not locked, so there should be like if you wanted to bend it, you could without popping it. Keep the hips level and fold. Breathe. This will be a stretch for maybe your hamstring, maybe your glute here. And then let's go ahead and step forward with the feet. Come to a seat. Woohoo! All right, let's take boat pose here. So changing up entirely. Hands behind the thighs, let the shins rise, lift the heart. Extend the arms out. Find your balance on your sit bones. Make sure you're still breathing here. And take those feet back to the floor. Take the hands behind you. Plug your shoulder blades into your upper back. Press the feet down. Try to keep the knees over the ankles. Lift the hips as high as the knees. Chin in. Or head back. This is reverse table. And then sit bones back to the floor, hands behind the thighs, let the shins rise, heart up, breathe. And then feet back to the floor. Actually, let's go ahead and take the feet to the floor, but extend them out. We'll do a reverse plank here. If you prefer to stick with reverse table, though, you can always bend the knees again. Let's turn the fingers out for a little variety. Shoulders plugged in, on your heels, lift your hips, point the toes to the floor, chin in or head back. And then sit bones come to the ground, and we're going to come all the way to the ground. We're going to do just a little bit of back bending here. So bend the knees. If you've got your block handy, you can hold on to that. We'll use that in just a minute. It might be optional, but you can use it if you want to. So everything's going to come to the ground here, but the knees are bent, so the knees are up. Okay, now we're just going to roll up and down a couple of times. So press the feet, lift the hips, roll on up, reach the arms up and over as you do this. Exhale, come back down. Make sure your feet are in appropriate position. My feet are too far away from, and I can feel it, like I don't have the stability. So you should be able to just graze your heels with your fingertips, and that's correct positioning. Press the feet down, lift on up, and roll. And lower down, and we can do a couple more of those. Rooting through the feet, come on up. And exhale, slowly rolling through the spine, come on down. Inhale, come on up. And exhale, slowly rolling back down. So we're on our backs. We're thinking about back bending. So we just did a little bit of rolling up and down, but now we want to actually use our muscles a little bit better. So press the feet and lift the hips. And now what we can do is we can either root down with the upper arms and point the fingers towards the ceiling, or after you've done that, some of you might find that you can easily interlace the fingers below you. Roll your shoulders underneath you so that you're getting yourself up a little bit more. Press the feet, lift the hips, and breathe. Now, we're going to come down out of this and we're going to take a supported bridge using the block. If you have a block that you don't trust, that you feel is not going to be supportive, you can come back and work in this pose just like this, just as we did bridge pose. Go ahead and come on down. So supported bridge is actually more of a restorative pose, but I'm going to show you a couple variations that might be fun to work from supported bridge. So if you're going to take the supported bridge, you take your block, press the feet down, and get it to at least, if you've got a yoga block, at least this height, but I'll try to use this taller height. If you've got a book, this may not work as well because it is a lot of weight for that book, and if the book is at all awkward, it might not take your weight. So you can just work in regular bridge, supporting yourself. But if you want to take the block underneath your tailbone, it's not the low back, but the tailbone. Make sure you can really rest it there and then wrap the hands around whatever you got going on. Now, variations. You can do this in bridge as well. And I'm actually going to show it from bridge just so that you know that it is possible. But if you want to stay in supported bridge, you can do it here too. Now, you can take your right knee into your chest and then push up. See how that works. If it doesn't go, if there's a no-go, then don't do it. Bend the knee and then put the foot back down. And then other side, press into your right foot, pull your left knee into your chest. Knee bent, now push the sole of the left foot to the ceiling. Push down with the right foot, push down. Bend your left knee, replace the foot on the floor. Lift up. Slowly get the shoulders out of the way. If you were on your block, get that block out of the way. Roll back to the floor. Yes. Okay, so let's go to a little twist here. So we're gonna just take the right leg in, extend the left leg toward the front of your mat. Use the left hand to pull the right knee across the body. Take your right shoulder out, turn your head to the right. And then switching sides, Take the left knee in, right leg out, and going the other way. So the right knee is gonna go, the right hand is gonna pull the left knee across the body to the right, and you're gonna turn your head and look to the left. Breathe. And then come back up. So we are just gonna take the legs up into the air for a couple of minutes, or maybe a minute or so. Let's take the legs up. Now, if you are at or near a wall, you could put your sit bones right up against a wall and take the legs up the wall. So legs up the wall pose is actually a really nice restorative kind of half inversion. But I find that it's actually pretty nice to do just laying on the floor with no wall. Now, you might have to use a little more effort here, and if your hamstrings are tight, you might need to bend the knees a little bit, and that's okay. So don't try to strain here. Keep your head and shoulders on the ground. But the idea really is just we're letting the blood flow the opposite way. We spend a lot of time in standing poses, and during our day, we're generally upright. So we can get blood flow down to the legs pretty easily, but sometimes the return is our body has to work a little harder for it. So sometimes it's just nice to, restore this way, let the blood flow back in the opposite direction. So just breathe, maybe close the eyes if this feels comfortable for you. Just let yourself relax. If you start to feel the toes getting a little tingly, it can happen, but they will wake back up again, so don't worry about it. Of course. All right, so give yourself maybe 3 more breaths here. And then bring the knees into the chest. Grab your shins. Rock from shoulders to hips. And we're going to roll to one more boat pose if possible. So just rolling through the spine here. The last time you come up, see if you can just find that balance. Boom. And then let's bend the knees, come to the feet. Use your hands behind you to help you. Rock off of your hips. Let's see if we can come to chair pose. Come on up. Exhale, forward fold, straighten the legs. Inhale, half lift. One more vinyasa. We're going to set up for pigeon stretch. So we just need to get back to down dog. If you don't want to take a vinyasa, don't do it. It's no big deal. From down dog, take the right leg up, open the hip, bend the top knee, prepping that leg. Move the knee forward behind your right wrist. Let the shin cross your mat. Use the left toes to walk the left leg back. Come onto the top of the thigh. Now, if this is uncomfortable for your right knee, you could have, and now we came up off our back, I'm saying go back to your back, but you could come to your back and cross your right ankle above your left knee and pull in this way to get a little bit of a hip stretch. It's not quite as deep, but it's a lot easier on the knee and it will open your hip. If you are able, I'm just going to turn around. If you are able to work with your knee here, the other thing we want to check is that we're not rolling all the way to our right hip. So if that's what's happening for you, once again, good old block, you could put that block underneath your hip so that it kind of won't roll out. And then you're going to just fold down over that front shin and breathe here. If you don't need the block, I don't recommend it because sometimes your hip, we don't want to roll to it, but we do want to let it release towards the ground. And then coming up slowly. Now, if you're on your back, it's going to be harder to take this next bit, so don't worry about it. But if you're folded forward, support yourself with the right fingers, bend the left knee behind you, reach back with your hand for your foot. Draw the heel in. If you reach back with your hand for your foot and they just won't make contact, return your leg to the floor and work towards getting your torso upright, just using both hands in front of you. If you've got the foot, you're pulling the heel towards the hip, but then you're working with that one hand that you've got to move yourself up. So as opposed to collapsing towards it, we're using that base hand to move you more upright. And then release that, hands to the floor. Stepping back to down dog. When you get there, if you want, you can kick through the right heel and just shake that leg out a little bit. And then we'll do the left side. So take the left leg up, open the hip, bend the top knee, point the knee to the sky, and then move the knee forward. The knee should be on the left side of your mat, and then the left foot is on the right side of your mat, so that the shin is kind of at a diagonal across your mat. Use the right toes to walk the right leg back and on the top of the thigh. Again, if you're coming to your back, you'll cross the left ankle above the right knee on the thigh, reach behind your thigh, and draw your legs towards you with the head and shoulders on the ground. And if you're working with the block, that block can just kind of sit right under your left hip here to keep that hip from rocking to the floor. But if you don't need it, then just put the block to the side and make sure you're, on your back thigh, and then fold down over your front shin and give up the weight here. Let yourself give into this pose. Breathe. And then coming up from there, when you're ready, one more time, let's stretch the back thigh. So again, supporting yourself with the left fingers, reach back with the right hand. So it's same hand to foot, draw the heel in. If you can't reach the foot, just extend the leg back down. But then whatever hands are in front of you, you're using those hands or hand to move yourself more upright. Breathe. And let the foot go behind you, hands to the floor. Step back to down dog. Shake out the left leg or kick through the heel here if you need it. Inhale, look to the front of the mat. Exhale, step or hop the feet forward. And let's go ahead and come to a seat. Let's take the legs out nice and wide here. So we'll do a little Upavishta Konasana to complete the practice. So this is a little forward folding, but we will get in a little side stretching here too. Flex both feet so you can, ideally the toes are still up here. We're going to turn towards the right leg. So angle your body, start to fold. If you need a block, so we might be able to use the block here as well. So if your hands are, right here, that's fine. But as you start to come down, one thing that can be really nice is if you put your block on your shin, maybe your head can just rest on that block. So you can give up the weight of your neck, of your head off of your neck. Breathe. Now, we're going to come into side stretch, but we want to keep this forward fold going. We're going to take the right forearm to inside of the calf. Now, if that won't come down, again, a block. You can just put it somewhere inside of the leg, and then we're going to twist open. Take the top arm up at first, and then rotate the arm in and reach it overhead alongside the ear. Woo. And again, this forearm might be on, I'm not using the block, but the forearm might be on the block, and so that would work as well. But do try to have that forearm rooting down somewhere. And then you can push, if you've got the arm on the ground, you can kind of push the arm against the leg to turn your body a little more open. Both feet stay flexed. And then float up, and let's just go the other way. So we're going now to the left leg, fold in towards it. Again, you might not be very far to start with, but breathe into whatever's going on here. Keep that right foot flexed so that both legs are still stabilized here. And if you tried this on the first side, if your head is coming close enough to your leg that it might be able to rest on the block, but it won't actually rest on the leg, see what happens if you can just let the head go. Feels really good to me anyway. And then we're going to come to the side stretch. So keep as much fold as you have now. Maybe the block needs to come to the inside of the shin, or maybe the block needs to go out of the way. Take your arm down, pushing the arm against the leg maybe. Turn yourself open. Take the top arm up at first and then rotate it in and take it over for a nice side stretch. Engage through both legs. Breathe. And then floating back up, let's come to a nice stretch straight down the center. So keep both feet flexed and we'll just fold. Now, again, this block could be great. If you're right here and this is as far as you're gonna go, the block isn't gonna be super helpful unless you wanna put your hands on it or your forearms on it. You could do that. But for some of us, we're getting so close to the floor, but not the head. The head's not gonna come to the floor, right? But it might come to a block. Rest it. Let go of that weight of the head. Maybe, okay, well now, maybe a little lower. Take it where you need it. If your head does come to the floor naturally, easily, that's fine. But this way we don't have to feel like we have to push for the head to get to the floor to be able to relax the neck. So take your time here. Breathe. Extend through the legs and then try to let the head and neck go. And then walk the hands in, come on up. Okay, so from your seated position, go ahead and just take the feet in, cross the ankles, and let's come back to seated, where we began. Take your hands to your knees and maybe roll the shoulders back. Do all of those good setup things we did. But take a second to check in and see if how you're feeling seated now is any different than how you were feeling seated at the top of this practice. Just notice. Maybe not. Maybe everything's just the same, and that's okay too. It doesn't have to be a certain way, but just be aware. And then bring palms together in front of the heart. Tune into your breath. And let's close today's practice with just a simple bow forward. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining me for a home practice today. Namaste. Thanks again. Though our practice together has ended at this point, I would love it if you would move to the floor. You can take a Shavasana. You would probably love it too. So let your body give up its weight entirely. Come to corpse pose. Spend 5 to 10 minutes there. Just relax, give in, and then enjoy the rest of your day. Yay!